And we're back once again. Hi, Wes.
Um, Hello. Yeah, no. Your MO is very courteous, and I like it a lot. Although I do think your supposition that it's in darkness because Dylan only wants you to hear the words is a little generous.
Um, uh, yeah, I mean, the whole actually, getting back to listening to music and listening to music from the past, um, around lockdown and the 5 years since then, and all the horrible things that have happened, something happened. Like I had all of a sudden, like I don't even want to hear almost any old music. I buy more new old records. I almost never pull out an old record. I buy record stores, buy a bunch of records, listen to them, file them away, buy some more.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like you figure, well, I have X amount of time left. I want to experience new things.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't, I love Highway 61, but there's a very good chance I'll never listen to it again because I
yeah,
know it by heart.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. And also, one's music tastes adapt and one's view of the world adapts. Like, the music I listened to, all those people I mentioned, there weren't any black people amongst them. Whereas, in the music beneath my stereo in the kitchen right now, which is the prime place for listening to music, there aren't too many white people in that
Mhm.
particular bunch of records I'm listening to. And that's just because I've got older. I'm more open to things that I wasn't open to. Jazz seemed complicated and difficult to listen to and pointless because there wasn't anybody singing enlightening words over it. And then you begin to realize at one point, well, words that expand your mind and enlighten you are one kind of music, but it's just one kind of music. Intelligent kind of white male singer-songwriter, female singer-songwriters, it's one type of music. Sadly, well, not sadly, happily, but that was the type that, inspired me. But Andy Paley was the first to teach me that, the lyrics of, not teach me, that's so silly, but to enlighten me to the fact that the words of Brian Wilson are as good as it were as the words of Bob Dylan. They're fulfilling a different function, but they're perfect in their own way. And he was really the first person to even make me vaguely aware that pop music there is a dignity in pop music lyrics and a simplicity and a clarity that only the very best people can write those. It's a different kind of genius, and I was slow to realize that stuff. But your tastes change. You discover things. They develop. You read an exciting article or book, and that's the record you've got to hear. I want to hear a Charles Lloyd quintet or quartet record called something like Warm Water, because I just read a fantastic article about it and it made it seem like it was the only record I could possibly want to hear right now, and that's how you learn and grow, I suppose.
Are you familiar with a podcast called The History of Rock Music in 500 Songs?
I've heard of it.
Well, the guy, and he talks about this openly. He's autistic. He could read by the time he was one, and he didn't have a lot of friends, so he just got every record and every book out of the library, and he knows more than everyone I know put together. And he puts it in perspective, and he talks about how racist music is, how misogynist it is, rock music, and the men, and like almost every male person except for Fats Domino is horrible in one way or another. I mean,
Yeah.
but he's very clever and he's very dry, funny, British stuff. But anyway, um, when he goes into depths and makes connections, and like he corrects people's memoirs, how their memoirs couldn't possibly be true because, you know, whatever. So I think anyway, I would recommend it.
It
Um,
sounds great.
yeah. So, um, so I assume so. Experiences seeing Bob Dylan live?
Have I seen him?
Yeah, I mean, like, what were your experiences? I assume,
Oh,
yeah.
incredible. Just incredible. Um, First time I saw Dylan live was Earl's Court 1981.
Mhm.
So I was 16 and my dad bought me two tickets on the wrong night. Um, with my friend Roger Taylor. We went on the first night. We'd meant to be that we'd hoped that he was going to get us tickets for the Saturday because we had O levels that day, and so we had to
Uh,
foot it up to London. And of course, and I immediately read in the press, what a mediocre show it was, and then he did. I remember that was whoever was the critic's name, and it's quite a famous quote. And they wrote, and then he did "Don't Think Twice" at the end solo, which was, of course, the highlight for me anyway. But that didn't matter. And not an angel to spoil the view, or something like. In other words, he got rid of all the in the trappings of the backing singers, and he was
Uh,
doing what he meant to be doing. And he played Barbara Allen that night. You
wow.
know, he said a lot of people only want to hear the old songs. Here's an old song. And is that right, or was that the next night? I mean, it's so funny. Memory's
Right,
so
right, right,
fucking
right,
weird.
right.
But so after 81, I began to see him a lot. So back then, of course, being in England, I couldn't be going to, up and down the East Coast. John Baldy would come over and, go to some religious shows or whatever, and you could go to like a few in one trip, but you really had to wait for him to come through, Wembley and play for a couple of nights, and I had no money anyway. 84, I was in a play when he played in the UK. I was in 12th Night. And so I went over to Europe to see him play in Cologne with Santana and Joan Baez.
Yeah.
And that was pretty great. And then 87, I started to go and see him a lot. Like the Tom Petty tour, I saw a few times. One time with George Harrison about 10 feet away from me in some
Wow.
magic, we didn't say hi, some magic mystery guest box that I happened to end up in, but amazing, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that was the night he played Here Comes the Sun, a little bit of Here Comes the Sun. But then, by then, obviously, I was very good friends with John Baldy and with a lot of, another guy called Glenn Dundas, you might
I
know
know
of.
that name, yeah.
Yeah, Nigel Hinton, a guy called Christian who used to do a lot of taping, Paul Williams, who used to come over occasionally, and who I then used to, when I moved to America, I used to travel between Dylan gigs with him.
Mhm.
But John Baldy would say, "Oh well, why don't you come over?" He was much more. I was like, "We can't go to Greece to see a Bob Dylan concert." He's like, "I'll meet you over there." So suddenly, my friend Willem Merleman, who lived in Amersfoort, we'd all stay at his house and have breakfast, and we'd drive to the gig because you could do it in Europe. You drive to Utrecht, drive back, drive to Amsterdam, drive back, drive to Rotterdam, drive back. So I just saw not hundreds, but many, many, many shows when they started doing the never ending tour vibes
Mhm.
around Europe. And so that was when my career was beginning. Oh, and then, we went to one great one was in Den Haag, which was the first time we ever saw the never ending tour. And he did Trail of the Buffalo, an electric version of Trail of the Buffalo, which was fantastic. And the other great thing about that gig was that John and I were waiting outside that show. I have these photographs. And we saw there was a guy called, I think, something Callahan, who used to be a minder or a slight looker after. And I
Okay.
didn't know who he was, but
Right, right.
somebody said, "Oh, that's Dylan's
Yeah.
minder. There's that guy." And he was walking out, and we were queuing, and he was walking out onto the street, looking on the street. And John Baldy, I was with John and Christian and Willem, and and Glenn. That's where I met Glenn in that line. Is
Uh,
where I met Glenn. And finally, somebody goes, "Fuck, that's Bob Dylan on a bicycle." And Bob comes up on this little bicycle with his hood and, not the baseball hat. I've got the photos and I
yeah.
can't remember who took them. It wasn't me. I think it was either John Baldy or Willem who took the photos. And I mean, he just biked right along the road, and then Callahan kind of saw, whoever was this guy, I might be making that name up, saw him and kind of ushered him down the ramp into the building. It was the most peculiar entrance to a concert. But then when I moved to America, I would go to everything that I could possibly go to. So from 1990 onwards, I went to the Dylan 30th anniversary concert at
Oh, I was
Madison
there. Yeah,
Square
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Garden.
Yeah.
Um, I remember going to that and kind of in the middle of a tour, bought a couple of tickets, I think, and went to it. And then I just used to go and see him wherever I could, like you do. He'd be playing in Athens and we'd go there, and then he'd be playing in Atlanta and we'd go there. And then, if he was on the West Coast with Santana, we went kind of up and down that run there. And then it just became so much easier to see him once you're over here, particularly given he never stops playing. I must admit, I took my daughter, who's now 18, I took her to see Dylan at wherever he played in Philly, a standing up place.
Mm.
And we actually managed to sneak our way upstairs because we couldn't have even seen downstairs. She wouldn't have been able to see at all.
Right.
But she was very, very excited to see him. That was a Rough and Rowdy Ways
Uh-huh.
tour. and she really loved it and thought he was great. She said to me with great excitement halfway through, Dad, this is amazing. I mean, he's probably going to be dead tomorrow. I was like, well, it's it's a possibility. And but she really enjoyed that. But I have to say, and I've seen that show, at the Beacon and here and
Yeah,
there and at the Met and all kinds of places. But I have to say, I don't need to see that show a lot more times. I love to venerate him live, and
right,
I love to, in the most hippie-ish way, be in his presence
right.
because he's the single greatest artistic force in my life and one of the most obviously important people of the late 20th century, early 21st century. He's done it. He is it. He's everything. So I'm happy to go and stand with him, but the show doesn't blow my mind anymore. And that concept of like, well, it's slightly different than it was the last time. Well, it was slightly different then too, and it's so none of it kind of it doesn't really get me really vibrating, I must admit, anymore. Having said that, I haven't even been near an outlaw music festival thing because I just don't want to be in a big place and watching him in darkness. That seems weird too. So I don't know what fucking pleases me, but
That
all,
that's Dylan in a nutshell.
exactly. So I don't know what pleases me anymore, but all I know is none of that matters because he's so great and I love him so much. And I mean, obviously, when the next time comes for me to see him, I'll enjoy it thoroughly. But you know, you know how it is.
Yeah, so talking to a lot of the younger people who do, just what you were talking about, they see differences because they never saw them back in the day. So those little changes mean something where I don't even notice them. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
he did this. He was more whatever,
Well,
whatever.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you an embarrassing thing. And I mean, I'm not proud of this. This isn't good. But if you consider Dylan's lengthiest, most consistent periods of his career were either the folk music days, if one counts those up to another side of Bob Dylan,
Right.
or perhaps the religious period, which is kind of three and a half, four albums, or the Frank Sinatra kind of period.
Hmm.
I have never listened to those records.
The Frank Sinatra ones.
I haven't listened to one of them. I've got them,
Yeah,
but the first one,
that's all that matters.
well, exactly. Well, the first one, I got it and I listened to it and I was like, wow, that's really nice. And then I saw the gig where he did four or five of the songs. I was like, that's really nice. I mean, I'd rather he was doing his own songs, but that's fine. But as they kept rolling out, I just couldn't even quite find, I know it's ridiculous, but I just couldn't even quite find the energy to kind of play them really.
Right, yeah.
I mean, because at the same time as all those albums are coming out, you're also getting Springtime in New York or something like that,
The cutting edge, yeah, yeah.
which is of interest to me. And the Sinatra stuff, it wasn't like I gave it a bad review or said it was horrible or thought it was bad. I just never got round to it really. It passed me by the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, nothing can pass me by just by definition of what I do. But but also, when I heard about it from someone who had an advanced copy, he's like, yeah, I mean, it's good. He's singing nice, and he's doing all these songs. But but if you ask me to name what the songs are on the albums,
Yeah.
I could probably only remember a couple. Even though I have all five
Well,
vinyl records.
Well, that's true. And when he did like a funny project that everybody thought was a bit whack a few years ago, Self-Portrait,
Mhm.
one still knew every fucking song, the order of them,
Yes.
every little last bit of the arrangements.
Right.
I mean, what I wish is that when I had been first getting into Self-Portrait, that there were people doing the kind of scholarship I like so much nowadays, where they explain the provenance of the song and how Dylan could have kind of got to his version, how that recording is from this arrangement or that arrangement. I love that stuff. Like when he did World Gone Wrong, and you found out because it was internet time, you kind of found out, oh, this is the Mississippi Sheiks, and this is Doc Boggs, and Dylan would have recorded this because, and he knew Pete Seeger's, but and that stuff to me that's deeply fascinating stuff. That's what I want to read, and that stuff can be so mercifully free of opinion and um uh pugnaciousness, by which I mean agenda. So many writers, they want to make their point against another writer, and it becomes needlessly, name calling and it's very old world. I was very honored to be asked to write the cover note for when they put out all the Rolling Thunder things. This one, this popcorn box,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they asked me to write the liner note for that, and I thought about. Oh, of course, I said yes first, um, and then I thought about it, and I was like, what I'm writing here is history. I am not writing my opinion of this stuff.
Mm.
I am not here to say that Joan Baez's voice is shrill because I've been saying it in print for 40 years and I can't fucking let go of it. I'm not here to make lame Dylan puns about, I'll review the review, whatever it is. Or, all I'm here to do is research
Yeah.
what happened, possible reasons he was wearing whiteface, but it's history.
Right.
I become a historian. And I was pleased with the way that note turned out because I devoided it.
Mm.
I hope got character in the writing and
Uh-huh.
all that kind of thing. But what I tried to do was empty it out of me
Mhm.
and my business and my agenda and my opinion. So what I wrote was fact and description.
Mhm.
And that's what I want a liner note to be. It's
Yeah, yeah.
bigger than you are.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan is not you, Harold, generally. Bob Dylan is bigger than the writer. I
Right.
don't want to fucking know what they think about
Right,
stuff. I
right,
don't care.
right.
It's not a game or league tables, it's history. Anyway, there you go.
Just to get back to something you were saying before about Dylan and plagiarism or whatever. Apparently, and then you don't even know what to believe, but apparently there are some deals made afterwards when people get a hold of lawyers get a hold of other lawyers. Although he doesn't even own his own songs anymore, so I don't know what happens now. But
Yeah, that's interesting. And of course, what isn't another thing that's interesting is when Willie Dixon,
mhm.
pops up as a writing credit. I'd love to know how that, as opposed to all the other ones. I'd love to know what happened that word got back or a deal was made or how egregious it was or why that was the one that, and also that's so interesting. Now, another thing, there's the whole Robert Hunter,
Uh-huh.
stuff, which reminds me very much, as a Dylan scholar and payer attentioner, reminds me of the Jacques Levy stuff.
Uh-huh.
To me, one of the most important Dylan answers of recent years was in a Bill Flanagan interview, and I think,
Mhm.
and Joey came up and he said, "Well, I didn't write that." I mean, nobody's really mentioned that very much or
Right.
talked about it.
Uh-huh.
But if Dylan said that in an interview, unless I'm wrong and I'm misremembering, he said, well, I didn't really write that. That was the other guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So if Dylan didn't write that, the only song on the album that is a Dylan song is Sarah.
I think it's one other one on side one.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, like
Mozart?
no, either one more cup of coffee, maybe.
Yeah, you might be right. Or Oh Sister. Anyway,
Yeah, right. It's one of those.
one of okay.
Stuff we used to know 20 years ago in our
Yeah, but you're getting my general
yeah,
point.
yeah.
If Dylan didn't write Joey, Joey is considered quite a long and turgid and not super interesting Dylan lyric. Well, that becomes very, very interesting. Desire is unlike any album Dylan ever made, linguistically, narratively, before or since. He's never done it
Uh-huh.
like that ever again. Well, anybody would want to know what didn't Dylan write on Desire? I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to ask him. I'm not going to
Right.
write an essay with a computer proving anything at all. I just would love to know. I'd love that to be a discussion that is out in the open because if he's blithely saying in an interview, I didn't write that, well, I want to know more.
Yeah.
Don't
Also,
you?
I think he might just be dismissive of it because it isn't a very popular song, and he's been known to not be completely honest
Well,
sometimes.
I don't think I think he has played it live though, hasn't
But
he?
yeah, he started. Jerry Garcia encouraged him to do it in
Right.
1987. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like Joey, with the accordions and the clam bars and everything. It's an atmospheric thing. It's not very Dylan-y though, is it?
Yeah.
I
No.
mean, except for love of the John Wesley Harding, Lenny Bruce character, the kind of mythologization of the outlaw, the kind of pretty boy Floyd.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Making someone who's probably a horrible person into like a hero. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I find myself getting very fascinated and intrigued by those kinds of things. Like, well, so I would love to know where Jack Levy began and Dylan ended. And I suppose that didn't end too happily, really, did it? Because the daughter kind of brought a lawsuit, or do you remember all that stuff?
Yeah, because when he sold the catalog, she wanted
Right.
money, but he signed a contract that
Yeah. Same
I'm
as Robert Hunter, I
yeah,
think. Well, I don't know because I have
right,
no idea. I'm just
right,
shooting the shit with you
yeah.
now. But like I don't think there's a point about that Hunter. I can't remember what album it is now. Is it Together Through Life?
Yeah, that he wrote
Yeah.
most of that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just interesting. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's so, since the early days of when he was from Gallup, New Mexico, it's like, he's been lying and, and covering himself and no one knows the truth, and
Yeah.
we may never know even after he's gone and because people just say stuff, let people say stuff about John Lennon and we don't even know what's true.
No, and it's so interesting how consistent he's able to be in that, in keeping it close, keeping it tight, having a lie be fun, having the truth be, weird, having a documentary about the Rolling Thunder Review, have fictional people in it. To me, that's high art. I mean, I love that stuff. I loved watching that movie I saw it in the screening room in New York, and
Uh-huh.
and nobody had told me anything about it. And I was like, this has to be made up. What the fuck is that? Because I didn't know a thing about it. And I was like,
Right.
Stephen Van Dorp? I mean, like, I've been following Dylan my whole life and I've never come. Sharon Stone?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, it was and we'll never know. Never know the truth. Um what was I gonna say? So the I had a thought. Sorry.
No, don't worry.
All right. So and now so all right. Well, we can talk about you have a Dylan collection. I mean,
Yeah.
do you get everything you see? Do you have multiple things? Do you have things? I mean, you said that.
Yeah, I'm like one of those old time collectors. Like if I see like a really nice copy of Planet Waves in the shrink wrap with the embossed stuff on it and the little flap around, it's like I was really excited the first time I realized in America that Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid had embossed lettering on the
Yeah.
cover because I don't think it ever did in England. I
Uh-huh.
just love those kind of things. I still there's that incredible um site searching for a gem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Alan
I mean,
Pointer. Yeah.
that to me, and I mean, I've got some weird things. Check this out. Check this weirdness out. You ever seen that?
What is that?
It's a promo re half-inch reel replicating Garth Hudson's original basement tapes or something.
Is there anything in it? Or
Yeah,
is it just, it's a real tape?
it's got real tape in there.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I
Wow.
found it on searching for a gem. It's so beautiful. I mean, I didn't buy it. I was given it, but it's such a beautiful thing. So,
And
so
sometimes
that kind of thing makes me very happy. And then I have my little Japanese Bob Dylan calendar on the desk. It's on my desk.
very cool.
And I have my little Bob Dylan album stickers that I bought at a gig. It's like it represents and then and then there's
Yep.
this over here, which is that's the Dylan books.
Uh-huh.
and there's the telegraphs.
Uh-huh.
But I think I might have stopped buying the books a little bit. That's kind of like a perfect collection of everything up to about 20 years ago, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. After a while, I'm looking at stuff, and sometimes
So
I'm
many books, so many
like,
books.
I know there's a horrible Dylan book written by some guy from the Daily News sports guy or something. And it's just like I opened it to one page and it had the fact was wrong. Like it's like and this guy,
Yeah, yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
I found it used like, no, no, I really
No, 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 no. Well, there was once, I remember when Bob Dylan, The Folk Rock Story by Cy and Barbara Rybakova was
Yeah,
the rarest Bob Dylan book you could possibly buy. And then the internet happened and you could buy them anywhere for $2,
yeah. Right, exactly.
And
Yeah.
when the Rolling Thunder Review, the Larry Sloman book,
Yeah.
that was an incredibly hard book to find in England because it had only come out mass market in America. It didn't come, and those are incredibly rare and difficult books to find. And then you could find everything. But it's like it's a lifelong
It,
study. It's a lifelong study, and I suppose collection of stuff.
yeah. I mean, like, and again, speaking of the old stuff, I had just to cheer myself up. I went to a few record stores in January and got a bunch of stuff. And it's like, oh, mono, another side of Bob Dylan. I never
Hmm.
had one or whatever. It just and but you listen to it, it's like you already know, you almost don't hear it because you're so familiar with it. But if you hear some of the stuff that comes out now, you can it awakens you. It's like it registers in a way that I mean, I know some of the younger people saying, "You mean really? You really don't get something out of an old record like that anymore?" It's like, well, wait 40 years and
Yeah.
same thing.
But it is really nice when it pops up, when something so random pops up on shuffle on your phone or something when you're driving along and you're just like, oh my God. It's like I'm hearing, because you hadn't expected to, and suddenly you're hearing, what did that happen to me with the other day? Something odd. Yeah, it was like yeah. It was off New Morning, and it was Day of the Locusts, and it just popped up on a shuffle, and
Uh-huh.
that's a funny
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah.
song. It's a funny song, and it just spoke to me in that moment. I just loved it so much, and it was so great to hear it fresh. And also, kids are very good for that because, like, I can play stuff to my daughter, and she's like, "Is he going to do all I really want to do at the gig?" I was like, "He's not going to do."
He's not going to do
No.
like a
Why
Rolling
won't
Stone.
you do it? Can I shout for it? Yes. You can shout for it.
I remember what was thinking about before. So you went to Tulsa, you went to the Bob Dylan Center. What was that whole experience like?
Absolutely fantastic. And also, it was an amazing show because, I'm going normally, oh, do you want to come to City Winery, New York to do a cabinet? You're coming through town. Do you live there? Whatever. But the moment I mentioned Tulsa to people, they really wanted to go because obviously we were doing the gig on the Sunday night, but we'd probably arrive on the Friday, have the run of the center on the Saturday, and then do the show on the Sunday. So it became a beautiful weekend. So, Yola Tango all came down from New York City, John Doe, Dean and Britta came from LA, Eugene came down from Boston. It was just a
Steve
fan.
Merman. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was just a fantastic weekend for all of us in Tulsa. We ate well. We went to great record shops. The guy who I know, Stephen Jenkins, who I knew years ago in San Francisco,
Oh, really? Well,
yeah,
how
yeah,
did
yeah.
you know him from then?
Well, actually, only because he either used to work at or saw the cabinet at the Jewish Community Center, which is where we did it a couple of times, once with Joan Baez, very memorably there.
Oh,
And so he kind of reintroduced himself and said, "Would I be interested in doing a cabinet down in Tulsa?" And we're doing another one in May. And again, I'm sure it will be a wonderful one because, if someone's getting their kind of travel comped to go to the Bob Dylan Center, that's a destination. And as we all know, Tulsa is a destination. You're not really going to be driving by very often. So you're either making up your mind to go there or you're not going to go there. So the gig's going to be in May, and it will be a very, very lovely weekend down there, I'm sure. But I literally had a conference call about it yesterday, so now I have to decide who I'm going to get in touch with first because I think they're going to say yes.
And the center itself, did you get a chance to walk around?
Yeah, I did, and I mean, I really enjoyed it. I mean, who was there was kind of a little exhibit onto Shane McGowan at that time when I was there before, I think, the kind of little
Right, right. Yeah,
pose
yeah,
exhibit.
yeah.
Um, and I just really enjoyed it because I didn't go and kind of look, I didn't quite have time to look at books and research manuscripts and lyrics. So I've done nothing like that, nor would there be any particular reason for me to do it except extreme fanish excitement. But it's beautiful seeing, you're sitting in that room watching the videos go by, that first room you sit in. I don't know if it's changed, but
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and there's
On all the
so
walls, all three
oh
walls.
my
Yeah, yeah.
God. And there's suddenly you're like, oh my God, there's some color footage of 78 I've never seen. And then there's some, and then there's this in color and this, and you're just like, wow. And it's just very exciting to see it go by and realize it's there.
Yeah,
And
the
also to realize, I think an interesting with Dylan also, and I should probably go in a moment. I
yeah,
think an interesting thing with Dylan is realizing what's not there because it's still that recent history where tapes were destroyed, where things didn't get filmed, where things happened, but you couldn't see them all the time. Now you can see more or less everything if the stage lights are on. But back then, you couldn't see things and then they actually weren't memorialized. So, luckily, Concert for Bangladesh was such a big event that it was. And I know that Woody Guthrie wasn't a big event, or the Felt Forum wasn't a big event, and nor a memorable event, but there's just no film of those things.
right.
So there are so many things. I think one of the issue, I don't know that I have no facts, but 78, there's just not great film of 78. I mean, you wish there was a whole concert footage of a concert gig of North America. There would have been for many acts back then. They were all making their concert films, but I guess Dylan had just made Ronaldo and Clara, so he didn't need to make another one so soon. But so little of that stuff is on film. So when you see that bootleg of Toronto religious concert for the first time, which was professionally filmed, that's a mind-blowing experience to see that up close.
Well, if you, I won't keep you any longer. Just this has been a pleasure. Talking about, talking about Dylan, of
I,
course, is one of my favorite things to
you
do.
can leave all the first bit out. I don't really care about any of that.
I'll have two separate things, before Dylan and Dylan.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
anyway, so I'm looking forward to seeing you, I guess, in like a week and a half or something, and I'll go to
Do
the
you have
opera.
tickets for the do you have tickets for the cabinet?
Yeah,
Okay, because I could put you on the guest list for that, but that's fine.
you've done that already, so in New York, and I
Great,
appreciate that.
great.
And so I'll let you go. This has been such a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you, and good luck with the with everything. And I'm looking forward to the new album and everything. And we'll be in touch.
Come say hi in Boston.
Oh, definitely, Cambridge.
Okay,
Oh no, it is Boston.
it
Boston.
is Boston. This one's oh, and then I'm not allowed to say this yet, but I'm actually coming back to play Passim on the 9th of November. But I'm not really allowed to announce it until the cabinet. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah,
It's fine.
it was actually on my calendar, but I don't know how it got there.
Maybe I
Anyway,
told
all
you.
right. Anyway, bye bye. Thank you for everything, and
Bye
go
bye.
see Cabinet of Wonders and everything.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.